Good morning, everyone. My name is John Curiel, and I am here today to talk about San Jose State University's Data and Democracy series.
Before we get into the weeds, let's talk about what democracy is and why it matters. At the most basic level, democracy is government by, for, and of the people, in contrast with rule by and for the few. There are many different theories on democracy out there, though the consensus is that democracy requires two dimensions at least. First, a democracy must have a high degree of inclusion, where all can participate equally, regardless of sex, race, ethnic background, wealth, family ancestry, and more. Second, the people must be able to openly voice and organize their opinions on government with the option to peacefully oust those in power via free and fair elections. Elections form the bulk of the attention and research on democracy, given the attempts by autocrats and demagogues to challenge their existence. Overall, three steps are necessary. First, an election must accurately and unbiasedly tabulate the political preferences of the electorate. Second, the election administration must inspire confidence among the electorate. Finally, the losing side, seeing the first two conditions met, peacefully cede power to the victors, with the process beginning anew via the next election. We find ourselves with the foundations of democracy decaying. For the first time in modern American history, we had a major political party unwilling to accept election results, and 60 to 70% of that party believes that post 2020, the last presidential election was stolen. Nowadays, common errors or delays in election administration are seen as proof of fraud, thereby further fraying trust in our democracy. While we might not be able to solve the rhetoric of political elites, it is possible to deny fuel to the fire by increasing the role of data to improve the processes and communication of elections. So, why am I here specifically to talk about San Jose State University's Data and Democracy Workshop Series? Well, in part because I earned my PhD in political science at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in 2019, with a focus on American politics and methods. From there, I spent 2 years as research director of the MIT Elections Data and Science Lab from 2019 to 2021. It was there where I and my colleagues led the Healthy Elections Project to provide the data necessary to jurisdictions across the country to identify bottlenecks and issues running an election amidst a pandemic. Likewise, he worked with media outlets to set expectations on the speed and nature of election reporting, which proved critical given the claims by some bad faith actors claiming that any result but that which led to the retention of power was proof of fraud. Following the National Sciences Foundation Acceleration Conference to identify areas to improve elections going forward, I published 2 chapters in an edited volume, Pandemic at the Polls, on these best practices. I further researched democratic backsliding diffusion while an assistant professor of political science at Ohio Northern University, and currently study the public opinion of elections as a senior survey analyst with YouGov. Therefore, my goal is to introduce you to a set of workshops that will set you on the path to bring some of these skills I picked up to defend democracy. The goal for the Data and Democracy series is to teach you the data and programming skills necessary to defend democracy. Generally speaking, the public only notices the running of elections when something goes wrong. It is when something goes wrong that bad faith actors can seize upon perceived issues and seek to fray trust in democracy. Far from a single day event, the election ecosystem has 5 distinct stages where problems might occur and then cascade over. Administrators must first create a database of registered eligible voters, followed second by the getting of the ballot to these voters. Third is the vote decision by the voter, followed by the tabulation of these decisions, and finally the certification of these results. Simple errors or delays can affect any one of these stages, whether that be misentering an address, showing up late to open the polling place, or poor placement of a ballot drop box that might induce traffic jams. Once these errors occur, they create the types of cascading error that cause mistrust, regardless of the mundane origins of said errors. Therefore, the goal of the workshop series is to teach you the skills necessary to diagnose where these errors and issues might occur, hitting them off before they even have a chance to take root. Among the skills that will be taught in these workshops are programming across a variety of languages in order to efficiently bring data to bear on pernicious problems. The course shall also teach participants on predicting levels of voter turnout and where they will likely be in order to efficiently allocate resources. Finally, these courses shall cover how to combine data on demographics and geographical barriers so as to prevent inequities in representation and electoral access. By learning these skills, participants will be able to serve the integrity of elections without ever being noticed. In the voter turnout analysis with Python and Pandas workshop, you will learn the object-based programming language of Python necessary to perform complex data operations. These Python tools will allow you to clean and process voter turnout data that might otherwise take hours in Excel within a couple of seconds instead. The course will teach you the best practices and most efficient tools to join and merge election data from different sources, and how to visualize these results to convey localized turnout. These skills will enable you to bring in registration and turnout data from previous elections so as to prevent unexpected demand from causing issues on election day. For population profiling with R, you will learn how to make use of the wealth of census data and how to employ these data in the programming language R. The course will demonstrate how to call census tables via packages such as tidyverse and take these data to forecast ranges of likely voter demand for ballots and other crucial election resources. Crucially, the course will likewise demonstrate how to map these results and account for neighbor effects and spatial dependency when planning the allocation of election infrastructure. In network analysis for Dropbox suitability, you will learn how to optimize placement of Dropboxes so as to minimize voter travel times. The course shall introduce foundational networking transport routing principles and how to create matrices of travel times between sets of points. These lessons will be used to identify key areas suitable within population centers for Dropbox placement, which can be followed up on via on-the-ground investigations to ensure suitability of their placement. Upon completion, participants can avoid the type of access barriers and traffic issues that might otherwise lead to reduced election efficacy. Getting into the foundation of the jurisdictions that give the basis to representation is redistricting with QGIS. The course employs open access mapping software to teach participants how to combine geographies at the smallest block level into sets of districts at the local, state, and federal level. Critically, the course shall also get into the specifics of what distinguishes redistricting from gerrymandering. With the combination of learning how to bring in census demographics, the course will teach participants how to redistrict in compliance with the law while optimizing representational access. The course Voter Turnout and Time Series Analysis, in turn, teaches the fundamentals of forecasting techniques for turnout across levels of geography. These techniques include advanced validation practices and threshold analyses to robustly predict ranges of expected turnout and the impact on election processes and outcomes. By the end of the course, participants will be able to bring these forecasting skills to bear for political and/or get-out-the-vote campaigns, in addition to improving allocation of election administrative resources. Finally, the course Accessibility of Ballot Dropbox Locations with Raster Data teaches participants how to employ fine-grained grids in the form of raster data to locate voting locations. Lessons centered on weighting and overlaying data on traffic, accessibility by transport mode, and aggregating data from different types of maps will allow participants to create objectively scored accessibility indices for voting. Further, the course instructs participants on how to communicate said data and profiles of potential voting locations in order to vet out the best option for voters. By the end of the lesson, participants will be able to prevent poor locations from being chosen and optimize the voting experience overall. No matter which course you choose, each one will start you down the path of defending democracy through data and spatial methods. Participants can choose the programming language that works best for them, whether that be Python, R, QGIS, or all of the above. Further, all courses will in some way end with participants knowing the best practices to digest the wealth of data on elections and turnout in a manner that can be easily understood and acted upon. These data-driven conclusions can be used for those interested in maximizing voter turnout, administrators aiming to prevent bottlenecks and disruptions, or anyone interested in understanding how elections work. Best of all, each course ends with best practices on data visualization for the topic at hand, thereby allowing participants to democratize what they learned for the public good. Therefore, each participant can finish these courses with the skills that will contribute to the restoration of our faith in democracy, thereby putting it back on track. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you there.